Sturdy, experienced, and reliable news presenters are called anchors for a reason. You can always count on seeing them on your TV or phone, telling you the news of the day. Until one day their contract ends, and suddenly they're just gone. Here's what happened to these once famous anchors after they signed off for the last time.
Kathie Lee Gifford was a morning talk show fixture for decades, first on Live with Regis and Kathie Lee, and then on The Today Show. But what has she been up to lately? It's always difficult to lose a loved one, even if you're able to mourn privately. But Kathie Lee Gifford had to share her sadness with the world when her husband Frank passed away in 2015. Frank was a beloved football player and broadcaster who had a significant fandom of his own. Upon his passing on August 9, 2015, Kathie Lee and the rest of her family released a statement, letting all of their fans know that Frank had died of natural causes at home. They also noted, "We rejoice in the extraordinary life he was privileged to live, and we feel grateful and blessed to have been loved by such an amazing human being. We ask that our privacy be respected at this difficult time, and we thank you for your prayers." After Frank's passing, Kathie Lee understandably took some time away from work. She returned to Today on August 17th and shared what her experience had been like. She expressed gratitude to her fans by noting, "I want to thank everybody for your love and your texts and your tweets, and just the outpouring has been extraordinary. It's a heck of a way to find out how loved you are. Believe me, my family and I got strength and comfort for it."
I just want everybody to know that this is a man who was at complete peace in his life.
Entertainment industry feuds are a dime a dozen. Kathie Lee Gifford had a high-profile one of her own, and she addressed it on the air in May 2018. It was between her and radio host Howard Stern. And according to Gifford, she had no idea why Stern hated her so much, though their feud apparently lasted for decades. As she explained on Today, "I never met him. I never listened to a show. He hated my guts for 30 years. Hated my husband, hated my children, hated everything I stood for." But Gifford ultimately decided to take matters into her own hands. While Stern was at the studio to announce America's Got Talent, she went up and introduced herself and wished him her best. According to Gifford, he was really flabbergasted. Gifford had previously discussed putting the feud to rest during a 2014 appearance on Watch What Happens Live, when she recounted that Stern told her,
"Always been so nice, and you just pissed me off because you were just, pretty much said because you were everything I wasn't."
In January 2017, Gifford let NBC know that she was planning on leaving Today at the end of the year. But everything changed when fellow Today host Matt Lauer was fired in November due to allegations of workplace harassment, which altered Gifford's plans. As she recalled to People magazine, "Some things were painful for us, and we had to adjust, and then they said, if we accommodate your schedule, will you consider staying? I wasn't looking to get out, but I needed the time. So when they accommodated the schedule, then there was no reason to leave." She added, "There's no better place in a 50-year career. It all worked out, so I'm staying." Ultimately, Gifford remained at Today until 2019, which truly marked the end of an era. While chatting with Jimmy Fallon on The Tonight Show shortly before her final episode, she explained that her husband's death had significantly impacted how she viewed the rest of her life.
After my husband passed, you really realize that you're going to run out of time. He didn't know that morning he was running out of time.
Gifford's mom also died shortly thereafter, adding to the already transformational experience she was going through. As she put it, "For the first time in my life, I have the time and the means to go and do anything I want to do." Gifford's run at Today lasted for 11 years, and she admitted that she'd fallen in love with her colleagues. But all good things must eventually come to an end. Plenty of people love a good Hallmark holiday movie, and one of those people is Kathie Lee Gifford. So it worked out quite well for her when she landed a part in the Godwin Christmas mystery films in 2018 and 2019. The 2019 installment, A Godwin Christmas Meant for Love, was a smash success for Gifford, as the film garnered some lovely viewer feedback. As Gifford noted to TV Insider, "I was delighted to discover a huge audience for a film based on a Godwink." She also expressed how grateful she was to be a part of a series of films that feature what happens when, quote, "the divine intersects with the human." And plenty of Hallmark fans shared her enthusiasm. One 5-star review raved, "They are Hallmark Christmas movies at their best, with lots of cheesy chance encounters. And of course, tons of wonderfully predictable Christmas cheer. A+. Gifford might be best known for all of her time on daytime TV, but she's also been an actress, singer, and much more. So it should come as no surprise that in 2020, she was honored with the Visionary Award at the Movie Guide Awards, which were designed to honor entertainment's most inspiring figures. And Gifford certainly fits the bill. It was a particularly memorable evening, as the honor was presented by a very familiar face. From 1988 to 2000, Gifford was the co-host of Live with Regis and Kathie Lee, alongside Regis Philbin. So naturally enough, he was the one to fill presentation duties. During her acceptance speech, Gifford said, "Most of the time I go, why? Why me? All I've been doing my whole life is walking with Jesus. And he takes me on adventures since I was 12 years old. All I wanted to be when I was growing up was an actress and a singer. It wasn't long after that, though, that Gifford would have to mourn the loss of her close friend, as Philbin passed away on July 24, 2020. As Gifford wrote on Instagram, "There are no words to fully express the love I have for my precious friend Regis. I simply adored him, and every day with him was a gift. We spent 15 years together bantering and bickering and laughing ourselves silly. A tradition and a friendship we shared up to this very day."
I got to laugh again with one of my best friends in all my lifetime.
Gifford may have said goodbye to the cameras of today, but she didn't say goodbye to every camera in the industry. September 2020 saw the release of the film Then Came You, which she wrote and starred in. It's a romantic comedy focusing on the dynamic between two people later in life who have both experienced loss. Gifford has described it as her passion project. She starred alongside Scottish comedian Craig Ferguson, and it sounds like she had a lovely experience working with him. Back in 2017, he served as a guest host on Today, and their chemistry was totally off the charts. Gifford called it the, quote, "most explosive week of television of my career." The two sat down for lunch together shortly thereafter and chatted about potentially working on a film together. Then at 2 a.m. the next morning, she called him and gave him the script for Then Came You. Regarding her inspiration for making the movie, she told USA Today, "I don't ever want to stop believing in love. Stop believing in love, and you've got one foot in the grave already." A lot of celebrities eventually get into the book writing game, and Kathie Lee Gifford is no different. In October 2020, she expanded her horizons by releasing a children's book called Hello, Little Dreamer. She announced the book's launch on Instagram, expressing her hope that it would inspire little kids to follow their dreams. According to the book synopsis, children glow with joy and a sense of security when they know God made them for a purpose. Considering that description, it makes perfect sense that Gifford would be behind such a sweet idea, as faith has always been a huge part of her life. Hello, Little Dreamer is targeted to toddlers and preschoolers, as it encourages them to explore their individual interests and talents. With one reviewer cheering, "After seeing Kathie Lee Gifford on TV with Hoda, I knew I needed this book to read with my first granddaughter. She is only 2 years old, but this book will be read with her for many years to come." And that wasn't the only book that Gifford released in 2020, as her memoir, It's Never Too Late, Make the Next Act of Your Life the Best Act of Your Life, arrived on shelves in December of that year. When Kathie Lee's children got married in 2020, they both opted for smaller, more intimate affairs. Her daughter Cassidy tied the knot in June, while her son Cody got hitched in September. Cassidy's wedding took place at her groom Ben's family home in Michigan, while Cody's ceremony was held at the Gifford's Greenwich, Connecticut house, the same place where his dad's ashes were spread. As Kathie Lee noted to People magazine, "Some people are postponing until they can have the big celebration, but my kids just wanted to be married."
COVID, of course, changed everything in everybody's lives in so many different ways. Ended up being a tremendous blessing. These things always do if you let them.
Both weddings were joyous and nostalgic, and the late Gifford patriarch was there in spirit, if not in person. As Kathie Lee told People, "At both weddings, we felt Frank just smiling. He had an aerial view, I think." When Kathie Lee Gifford left Today, it was truly the end of an era. She'd established her career on interviewing people, and it seemed unfathomable to think of her pursuing any other avenue. But there were other pursuits, like making movies and writing books, that she was truly passionate about, and those took more time than hosting TV. But she couldn't escape her interviewing routine forever. In February 2021, she chatted with musician Brian Welch, co-founder and guitarist of rock band Korn. They discussed the film Loud Crazy Love, a documentary that chronicles Welch's struggles with addiction and depression. As a survivor of mental health problems, Welch spoke to Gifford about what pulled him out of such a dark place. Gifford was as on top of her game as ever, as she asked Welch questions with persistence and grace.
On HLN's Morning Express, Robin Meade was known for her sunny demeanor and easy smile. So what has she been up to since leaving the network? If you tuned in to HLN's daily Morning Express news broadcast during its nearly 20-year tenure, you're no stranger to Robin Meade's warm and welcoming greeting.
Good morning, sunshine.
Before she made it big as a famous news anchor, Meade grew up in the Midwest and was crowned Miss Ohio in 1992. She pivoted from pageants to working at local news stations and even won an Emmy Award in 1995 for her coverage of a Metra train collision. So when HLN decided to add a new morning show to their roster of programming, Meade's personality and experience positioned her as the star anchor the network was looking for. Morning Express with Robin Meade premiered on HLN in 2005. However, after almost 2 decades at the helm of the beloved broadcast, Meade said her final Good Morning Sunshine on December 5th, 2022. When the network's parent company chose to restructure due to financial problems, the show was canceled. In September 2021, just over a year before HLN's restructuring, Meade celebrated her 20th anniversary with the network. During an interview with the Atlanta journal Constitution, the television personality spoke about how much Morning Express with Robin Meade impacted her life. She shared, "It's the most surreal experience when someone says, 'I've been watching you since junior high,' and they're 30 now. I wouldn't be here if it weren't for the viewers."
Doing the show with you has been the joy of my life.
A few months after Robin Meade's exit from HLN, she gave her social media followers an update on her newest priority: making memories with her loved ones. A quick scan of her Instagram, and it's clear that the news anchor and her husband are spending a lot of time with their families. In an Instagram post from July 2023, the former Morning Express anchor gave her followers a peek at her Midwest roots and family traditions. She wrote in the caption, "What yearly family event did you take for granted but now cherish like gold? The first mess of green beans each year is a big deal for the Meades." Photos included a sweet shot of Meade and her parents smiling, as well as a candid snap documenting the family's green bean prepping process. In the caption of the post, Meade joked, "Dad plants and picks them. Mom preps and pressure cooks them. Everyone else's job? To eat them." Meade also shared another heartwarming moment on Instagram when her uncle rang in his 100th birthday. She wrote on Instagram, "My uncle is the first of the 14 Meade babies my grandmother birthed to make it to the century mark." Though they no longer see each other at work every day, Robin Meade and her former HLN co-workers still make an effort to spend time together. At the beginning of March 2023, the Emmy winner appeared in an Instagram selfie with her former co-anchor Jennifer Westhoven. Meade jokingly wrote in the caption, "That warm, fuzzy feeling when you catch up with Jennifer Westhoven in the middle of the day instead of oh dark 30 back when you shared an office." A few months later in May, Meade reunited with Westhoven once again, this time with their Morning Express compatriots Callie Dowler and Bob Van Dillen in tow. A few days later, the former Miss Ohio revealed she and most of the morning show's anchors got together for the first time since their final day at the office. Alongside photos and videos of the group having fun at an interactive splat paint studio, Meade wrote on X, "Reunion of the former AM anchors. I missed these folks, so we thought up something fun to do. LOL. First time we've been together as a group since Morning Express ended in December." In November 2023, Meade announced she'd been inducted into the Atlanta Press Club Hall of Fame, sharing a photo of herself smiling alongside her fellow award recipients. Meade wrote in the caption of an Instagram post, "None of this would have happened without you, the viewer. Thank you to the Atlanta Press Club for putting me into the Hall of Fame with 4 amazing journalists." The Atlanta Press Club attributed Meade's Hall of Fame induction to her position as the longest-running host of a morning news broadcast.
We were all a lot better off for you doing news your way.
Meade has stayed busy supporting various philanthropic causes. In December 2023, for example, the former Morning Express anchor shared that she attended the Mark Carroll and Friends charity 20th anniversary toy drive. Meade posted photos from the event on Instagram, writing in the caption, "Celebrating the season and supporting a toy drive? Yes, please. Hats off to everyone who works to help others, not only in the holiday season, but year-round. You're a gift." Meade has long used her platform to amplify nonprofit organizations. In June 2017, she wrote about child food insecurity in the United States for CNN Health. In the essay, the Ohio native reflected on the important community work carried out by Blessings in a Backpack, a charitable organization that ensures school children have enough food throughout the weekend. Meade noted that the cause is especially close to her heart because her father experienced poverty while growing up. She wrote, "Dad says families, including his own, ate what they grew. He says as tenant farmers, my grandparents paid their rent for their huge brood with a portion of the crop they harvested on land they never owned. As a result, there seemed to be a dependable supply of something to eat."
Tamron Hall is opened up to her fans and studio audience, known as her Tam Fam, and a lot more has come to light about those years she spent off-screen. Here's what really happened to Tamron Hall. When fans turned on their televisions to the Today Show in February 2017, it was a surprise not to see Hall on their screens. After all, she'd been there every morning for 3 years. Her co-host Al Roker simply said, "Our good friend Tamron Hall has decided to leave NBC News."
We want to wish her nothing but the best, much continued success, and cannot wait to see what her next chapter is.
And that was it. There was no farewell episode, no final goodbye, no nothing. The successful morning show practically made it seem as if Hall had never even been there, which is when the rumors began swirling. Today ended up releasing a public statement explaining that Hall's contract was up. However, they announced this 1 day late after she had already left the network. The statement read, "Tamron Hall will be leaving NBC News and MSNBC when her contract expires this month. Yesterday was her last day as an anchor on both networks." Between her abrupt end to the sudden surprise statement from the show, many people assumed that Hall had left on bad terms. It quickly became pretty clear that Hall was being replaced on Today. By the end of 2017, journalist Megyn Kelly had her very own hour on the famous morning show, exactly when Hall's hour used to be. Hall later told Variety, "Megyn's success or not, I already knew they made the wrong choice when I left the door." Hall wasn't the only one who was outraged by suddenly being scrubbed from NBC. The National Association of Black Journalists was backing her up as well. In a statement, the association said, "Recent reports that Hall and Roker will be replaced by former Fox News anchor Megyn Kelly are being seen by industry professionals as whitewashing." The group then requested to meet with the network. In the end, NBC insisted that they had offered another position to Hall, which she had declined. Today execs may have said that they wanted her to stay, but Hall told Strahan, Sarah, and Kiki that she got fired. Rumors were circulating that Hall was offered a lower position on the team, but she refused to take it. She later explained to USA Today, "I didn't want to watch as my profile was being shrunk down to nothing when I know that I have a unique perspective and voice in this business." The morning show even said in a statement that they, quote, hoped that she would decide to stay and that they were disappointed that she has chosen to leave. However, it's still never been clear what new position the network had offered her. All Hall has said is that her other offers were, quote, insulting, according to Deadline. A source told People magazine that Hall was offered millions of dollars to stay at NBC, but she still decided to bounce. The insider reportedly said, "The staff is hurt and bewildered and thinks once again Tamron has put herself above the team." However, Hall seemed to know there were bigger and better things out there for her.
I believe that I got what I needed to get out of that experience, and you move on.
Hall's replacement didn't end up lasting long at Today. Megyn Kelly Today was part of the morning show for only 1 year before it was canceled. The network wanted nothing to do with her after a comment she made on the show about blackface.
Dresses Diana Ross, and she made her skin look darker than it really is, and people said that that was racist. And I don't know, I felt like, who doesn't love Diana Ross?
In a statement, NBC announced, next week the 9 a.m. hour will be hosted by other Today co-anchors. While this seemed like the ideal time for Hall to reprise her role on morning television, she wasn't waiting around to return to Today. She explained to USA Today, "I wasn't going to wait for someone else to not work out when I could be figuring out a way for me to work out. I didn't want Megyn Kelly to see me lurking in the hallway. It was her time to take over television on her own terms, and she was planning her own daytime TV comeback." While Hall walked away from Today on her own terms, it wasn't an easy decision for her to make. She told USA Today she was, quote, heartbroken over the whole situation. She had covered for her co-anchors on multiple occasions and was even hosting a second show on the network. She had dedicated her life to NBC. It was her dream job. Now she was left feeling like she wasn't enough after being fired from her hour-long slot. In an interview with Deadline, she confessed, "I had to look myself in the mirror and say, but am I still Tamron if there's no name beneath my card, if it doesn't say a show? And I decided I'm still Tamron." With over 25 years in the business, Hall had another plan for herself. She wasn't about to give up so easily quite yet. With her deal done at NBC, a spot at ABC opened up for Hall just in time. A few months after she left Today in 2017, Michael Strahan left Live with Kelly, and Kelly Ripa was looking for a new co-host. Rumors began swirling all over social media when Hall was spotted having lunch with a network executive. A source reportedly told Page Six that he was encouraging her to join Kelly. However, when Hall's team was asked about Live with Kelly, they declined to comment. Ryan Seacrest ended up being chosen for the job, and Hall was left searching for her new starring role on television. While Hall never got the chance to co-host with Ripa, she has been on the show plenty of other times. She even got the chance to sit beside Seacrest while Ripa was out of office one day in August 2019. After her time at Today came to an end, Hall knew she was capable of starring on any kind of show, and she was bound and determined to make it happen. Quickly after leaving NBC in 2017, she signed a deal with the Weinstein Company to create her very own place on television, The Tamron Hall Show. She told Parade, "I woke up to this tremendous outpouring of support and people who were rooting for me, and I want to make them proud." However, Hall's talk show came to a complete halt only a few months later when news broke about allegations of Harvey Weinstein's rampant abuse and harassment. Hall was horrified by his actions and walked away from the deal by the end of 2017, according to HuffPost. She then stayed away from television for the next 2 years. Shortly after she left Today in 2017, music executive Steven Greener asked Hall out for pizza and even mentioned marrying her right then and there. She explained on Live with Kelly and Ryan, "We moved in together like 3 weeks later." While she was away from television, Hall was trying to become a mom too. She and Greener had been through IVF, and it didn't seem to be working. She told People magazine, "Just like with my job search during that time, there were so many frustrations. I'm putting in the work, I'm taking care of my mind and my body, and I'm being rejected." The couple eventually decided that they would adopt a child. However, the universe seemed to have other plans. At the end of 2018, Hall and her husband got a surprising phone call. She told Parade, "When I got the call from the nurse that we were pregnant, it was unbelievable, surreal. Since she was 48 years old and had a pregnancy that was considered high risk, she kept her pregnancy top secret from the public." Once she was 32 weeks along, however, Hall felt comfortable sharing the news on Instagram, so her fans finally knew what she'd been up to. Debuting her adorable baby bump, she wrote, "It's clear a daytime talk show isn't the only thing I've been trying to produce." 2 years after leaving Today, Hall finally had her own show to star in. The Tamron Hall Show was picked up by ABC and Walt Disney Television, and her season premiere hit television screens across the country in September 2019. Hall told Windy City Live that the show was all about inspiring audiences, quote, "when you're down on your luck, as I've been and all of us have been." Instead of all celebrity guests, she aspired to host everyday people on her set. It was about bringing people together. In fact, she wanted the audience as close to her as possible, something she never had while she was shooting live on Today. Hall had clearly learned a lot during her 2-year leave from television. She told ABC 10 News, "I hope you'll see somebody who's hosting a show that's a lot more like you than you think." Obviously, fans were enjoying seeing Hall on their televisions once again. So much so, in fact, that the first year of her talk show earned her a Daytime Emmy Award for Outstanding Informative Talk Show Host in 2020. Since Hall wasn't able to accept her award in person, she instead decided to go to Instagram to share her virtual acceptance speech with her fans. While many other winners usually look red carpet ready in a gown and makeup, Hall was rocking a robe and makeup-free look. She said she had been sitting at home when she'd gotten the call that changed her life. Hall's talk show was 2 whole years in the making, and it finally seemed like her time to shine away from Today had arrived. She wrote to her fans, "Thank you for keeping me in the game." While leaving Today was initially tough, looking back, Hall is now glad she decided to do it. She told People magazine, "That loss set me up for, yes, a dream job, but also my baby, my husband, my family." She would have never had any of that without taking time away from TV. Hall was truly horrified walking out of Rockefeller Center the day she was let go from NBC. She was confused and lost, not knowing what was coming next. She had to pick herself back up from the brutal realization that she was being replaced and pave her own way back into television. Now she has something even better. At Today, Hall wasn't able to interact with an audience. Now her show allows her to, quote, be where she loves to hang out most, which is with people. Her talk show is a way for her to help others pick themselves back up in their own difficult situations, too. She explained, "You have no idea that something better is right there. You've just got to persevere."
Ann Curry was once the next big thing on The Today Show, until she wasn't. But why did she disappear from our screens, and what's she been up to since then? Nobody was really surprised when Curry became co-anchor of Today in 2011. After all, she had been with the program since 1997 and was well-liked by the audience and her colleagues.
I really feel like Cinderella. Ann Curry, a.k.a. Cinderella today.
Things fell apart quickly after that, however, and Curry was fired after spending just a year as co-host. That was back in 2012, when Matt Lauer ruled the roost at NBC. Since the impetus for the firing was said to be a lack of chemistry between Curry and Lauer, it's clear that NBC took the latter side.
This is not as I expected to ever leave this couch after 15 years.
In 2020, Curry admitted to still being baffled by her firing, which happened quickly and without much explanation. She told Elle, "The bottom line is that it still hurts. It honestly hurts really deeply, because I really think I did nothing wrong." Curry had expressed a similar sentiment 2 years prior, when she told people that she was proud of the way she handled herself in the aftermath. She said, "I've been honest and true. I've tried to stay pure. I've tried to not respond in a knee-jerk manner, and I've stayed very close to who I am. So it hurt, but I'm also proud of myself." It's not all bad though, as Curry has been involved in plenty of other ventures since leaving Today. As it happens, she didn't exactly disappear without a trace after losing her co-hosting gig. She even stayed with NBC News for a while, remaining with Today in a limited capacity as anchor at large. Curry first returned to the program only a few months after her ousting in what was regarded as an uncomfortable and tense segment, in which she barely talked to Matt Lauer. Around the same time, Curry also became an NBC News national and international correspondent. Many felt this was largely a consolation prize for her firing, as she was rarely featured on NBC in the years that followed, but her limited on-screen appearances between 2012 and 2015 were quite well regarded. She continued to make occasional appearances on programs such as NBC Nightly News with Tom Yamis and Rock Center with Brian Williams, and this work, in addition to a few specials, earned her multiple award nominations. Between 2012 and 2016, Curry was up for 7 News and Documentary Emmy Awards for projects including NBC News Special, Terror in Boston, Ann Curry Reports, A Face in the Crowd, and Ann Curry Reports, Iran's President Speaks. Then, in January 2015, it was announced that Curry was parting ways with NBC News for good. While Curry hasn't since taken on another role as high-profile as that she held at The Today Show, she has been busy in the years following her exit from NBC News. She's presented 2 highly regarded TED Talks, for example, one on witnessing humanity and another entitled How to Restore Trust in Journalism. She also appeared as herself in 2 episodes of Netflix's House of Cards. In 2016, Curry participated in a discussion between the Dalai Lama and Lady Gaga. 2 years later, she spoke at Meade, and she even appeared in an episode of Finding Your Roots in 2019. Curry has also worked to establish relationships with PBS and TNT. She hosted and executive produced the documentary series We'll Meet Again for the former, beginning in 2018 and lasting for 2 seasons. She then began co-hosting Arts Talk in 2023, alongside Misty Copeland, Henry Winkler, and Rhiannon Giddens. Over at TNT, Curry hosted and produced Chasing the Cure, a series about the search for answers among patients with undiagnosed, misdiagnosed, or uncured diseases. This series earned the Critics' Choice Real TV Award for Best Live Show in 2020. Curry has also received a handful of honors since leaving NBC. She landed the Damon Runyon Award for the Denver Press Club in 2024, and in 2022, she was awarded Washington State University's Edward R. Murrow Lifetime Achievement Award.
From behind the desk on The View to beyond the DMZ into North Korea, Lisa Ling's career has taken her across the globe as she searched for stories worth sharing. But her profile isn't nearly as high as it used to be. So what happened to Lisa Ling? The first time many viewers got to view Lisa Ling was on, well, The View. The talk show made a spot for her at the desk during the 2nd season in 1999, where she co-hosted alongside Star Jones, Joy Behar, and Meredith Vieira. Behar later spoke about Ling coming onto the series and injecting some much-needed youth into the panel, claiming that Ling allowed herself to be pushed out of her comfort zone many times. Speaking about her former co-worker during the show's 25th season, Lisa Ling immediately brought a rare combination of youthful exuberance and worldliness to the table. She was always prepared and seldom caught off guard.
Although she was an up-and-coming journalist when she came aboard, she wasn't above mixing it up and having a little fun.
Ling got back into her comfort zone when she left the show in 2002 to pursue other opportunities as a journalist. While she's expressed gratitude for her time on the daytime hit series, she's also made clear that the experience wasn't without some drawbacks. She summed it up on Jimmy Kimmel Live saying, "You really have to express your opinion so vociferously on that show. And in the age of social media, you're just scrutinized so severely." Goodbye opinionated daytime discussions, hello journalism! If you lost track of Lisa Ling after her departure from The View, then you must not have been changing the channel much. She stayed busy after leaving the show, going on to host National Geographic Explorer and working as a correspondent on The Oprah Winfrey Show. But this was all a precursor to her getting a show with her own name in the title. In 2014, she started hosting the primetime documentary series This Is Life with Lisa Ling on CNN. On This Is Life, Ling got to flex her journalism chops by traveling across the US and covering a range of pressing issues, such as the meth epidemic, gangs in Mississippi, and gender fluidity. In the documentary-style series, Ling was able to deep dive into previously undiscussed topics and showcase aspects of America that many people may overlook.
What I hope that people will come away with when they watch our show is just a better kind of sense of people who may live right next to them.
Her storytelling and investigative reporting helped make the show a hit, and even earned it some well-deserved hardware. The show earned 2 nominations for Best Episodic Series from the International Documentary Association and Best Ongoing Documentary Series from the Critics' Choice Documentary Awards. In 2021, Ling made a return to where she first had the opportunity to shine in the spotlight, when she came back to guest host on The View as part of a celebration for the show hitting its 25th season on the air. Reflecting about the good old days of 2002, Ling recalled that during her time as a host, she was often shot down when she wanted to discuss politics and other serious issues, on account of doing so would bum everyone out. Upon her return, she shared how excited she was to see how the daytime program had adapted to include those topics.
And now The View has just become this part of the cultural and political zeitgeist for doing exactly that.
Later talking to Access Hollywood, Ling admitted that she prefers the show now rather than when she was on it, saying, "That show has become an undeniable force in pop culture and in politics. I mean, you can't run for office without making a stop at The View." This Is Life with Lisa Ling ran from 2014 to 2022, making it CNN's longest-running original series. But apparently the execs at the network prioritize money over legacy, as the Los Angeles Times reported that the series was cut in an effort to trim costs. CNN had kind words in their de facto eulogy for the show, saying in a statement, "The important seeds planted by Lisa will continue to grow at CNN as we remain committed to shining a light on underreported stories and the people who make up the fabric of America." Compliments are nice and all, but at the end of the day, Ling was still out of a job. Speaking to the LA Times, she unsurprisingly shared her disappointment over the series cancellation, saying, "I would like to do many, many more seasons, especially right now, when we are existing in these bubbles and we follow people who espouse what we believe." After This Is Life was canceled, Lisa Ling picked herself up, shook off the disappointment, and shifted her focus, as well as her network. The HBO Max series Take Out with Lisa Ling follows Ling as she explores Asian American stories through food. Speaking about the project to Access Hollywood, Ling explained, "Food is the best way to connect people to lost history or to culture. It's the one thing that transcends challenges, struggle. It transcends discrimination." Of course, coming from an Asian American family herself, the focus of the series hits a personal note for Ling and was a point of pride for her as well.
I never thought that anyone would be interested in knowing about Asian American stories, and it wasn't even a dream. I never even dreamt it could be possible.
She added that since seemingly everyone in America loves Asian food, it's only fair that people feed their brains as well as their stomach by learning a little about the people and history that created those popular dishes. Take Out with Lisa Ling has also allowed the host to focus on a subject that had previously not been talked about enough, namely Lisa Ling herself. While on Jimmy Kimmel Live, she shared a bit about her family history, talking about how her grandfather immigrated to California in the 1940s, but could not get a job in finance because, according to Ling, nobody wanted to hire a Chinese employee. So her grandparents decided the best course of action would then be to open a Chinese restaurant, despite the pair having no experience in cooking.
It was one of the few ways that Chinese people could actually, own a business or have a business.
Wanting to show and not just tell, Ling used her show as an opportunity to visit her grandparents' restaurant for the first time, to reconnect and share those family roots, something she hasn't always been able to do. Speaking to Access Hollywood, she expressed that it was difficult for her to have pride in her heritage and feel accepted as a child. Admitting, "I was one of the few Asian kids in my school. When you're in middle school and high school, all you want to do is fit in. And anything that gives people a reason to tease you is something that you don't want any part of." When life closes a door, it opens a window into the offices of CBS. Shortly after Ling's CNN series was canceled, CBS was quick to offer the award-winning journalist a position with their network, and she joined as a contributor in 2023. While announcing the news, Neeraj Kimlani, president of CBS News, had nothing but high praise for Ling, saying, "Lisa delivers some of the most authentic, human, and revealing interviews because of how she embeds with communities and the people she covers." For her part, Ling was equally enthused about joining the CBS team. Since joining the network, Ling has reported on a range of stories, from for-profit nursing homes to the struggle of unpaid caretakers. When it comes to reporting on caretakers, Lisa Ling appears on both sides of the story. Ling's own family appeared alongside others in her CBS special series, Cost of Caregiving, which shined a light on the struggles of those in the so-called sandwich generation. It's a term that applies to people who are tasked with taking care of both young children and elderly parents. In an Instagram post promoting the series, Ling wrote in the caption, "We take these responsibilities seriously, but it can certainly take emotional and financial tolls." In another Instagram post showing her young daughter helping care for her grandmother, Ling wrote about caring for both her own mother as well as her mother-in-law, writing, "Both of our moms are needing a lot of help right now, and I'm just so touched by how the girls are rising to the occasion to help their beloved grandmothers." Lisa Ling's career has taken her around the globe, and while it may be cool to see the sights, it's a bit hard to take time and relax while reporting from somewhere like North Korea.
It's kind of funny that that's how I got into North Korea, because even though I'm Asian, I'm terrible in math and science, so the fact that I was part of this medical delegation is kind of funny.
But in more recent years, Ling has occasionally put down the microphone and hopefully picked up a cocktail as she continued to travel, turning her attention to important stories like, what are some fun things to do in South America? After an August 2024 trip to Belize with her daughters, Ling shared several photos on social media, using her journalistic skills to prove that she had way more fun than you did that month. Sharing that Belize had been a long-time dream destination for her, Ling posted photos of her taking some well-deserved relaxation time, ranging from snorkeling adventures to horseback riding. Nowadays, Ling is far removed from being told to stop being a buzzkill by talking politics. And like many people, she's not afraid to let her views be known via social media. If you're curious as to where she leans on the political spectrum, look no further than her post where she's shaking hands with a certain ice cream-loving older fella who once called the White House home. It's not all smiles and handshakes, though. In another post from that month, Ling criticized then vice presidential candidate and awkward donut shop customer J.D. Vance for his claim that the country was being run by, quote, childless cat ladies. Ling clapped back by writing, "How a wannabe VP of this country could harbor these views utterly baffles me." As a young journalist, Ling occasionally appeared to put getting the truth behind a story above her own personal safety. But now, as a mother of two, she has become more mindful of the situations she puts herself in, telling The Skim, "My life is not my own anymore. And I have a responsibility to do everything that I can to ensure that I am available and that I'm there for my kids. They need me, and I need them." So that has changed. But Ling hasn't confirmed that she's put her perilous past completely behind her, if that's what the work calls for. Especially if she's able to shed light on conditions that people find themselves living in every day of their lives. As she went on to say, "If I can go and communicate some sense of what their lives are like to a bigger audience like that, that is my objective."
Connie Chung is one of the most iconic figures in news history. The veteran journalist and news anchor was a mainstay on TV for years, working for some of America's biggest networks. But since then, Chung seems to have largely disappeared from television. So what exactly happened to her? Part of the reason that Connie Chung stepped back from television was so that she could raise a family. After a miscarriage and multiple failed attempts at in vitro fertilization, Chung and her husband, TV host Maury Povich, adopted their son Matthew in 1995. Chung was 48 years old at the time. For the first couple years of motherhood, Chung stayed at home with her son before returning to work for a few years when he was a toddler. A short time later, she returned to being a stay-at-home mom. As she explained to Mama Load in 2011, "I think teen or preteen years are the time to always be around. I haven't worked in several years, so I've been able to keep an eye on Matthew. I think it's important to know who his pals are and to know their parents." Transitioning from her high-profile jobs on television to full-time motherhood must have been a difficult change for Connie Chung. While she loves spending time with her family, she admits that there are times she misses being on TV. In 2012, she told The Star, "When the Arab Spring was breaking, I could not tear myself away from any of the coverage." Chung added that the media has changed a lot since she first started her career, and that she is grateful to have missed out on the social media age. As she explained in the 2012 interview, "The media is evolving, and there is no resemblance to when I was in television news. It will no longer ever be the same because of the internet. The nature of how people receive their news has changed." While she may no longer be ruling the airwaves, Connie Chung hasn't exactly retired. Instead, she has turned her talents to a different form of journalism. Years after she and her husband purchased a home in Montana, they started a weekly print newspaper in their community called Flathead Beacon. Chung isn't part of the day-to-day operations of the paper, but she and her husband are still proud of what they have accomplished with it. And since 2007, the paper has been going strong. In an interview with Parade, Povich had this to say about the Flathead Beacon. "It has been honored as the best weekly newspaper and website in the state. We are very proud of the paper, especially in the climate in which print journalism is trying to stay alive and finding new ways to exist." When Connie Chung got her start in the industry, it was a very different time. Racial and gender equality were still fairly recent changes in the American social structure. Chung landed her first job in journalism in 1969 at the height of the women's movement that demanded equal rights for women. The Equal Pay Act had only been passed 6 years earlier. The civil rights movement had also made great changes in that decade, with the Civil Rights Act passing in 1964. In spite of all the progress that has been made since then, Chung still thought that the industry would be better for women and minorities by now. However, as she told NPR in 2011, "It's not easy to break these habits and these male traditions. The cavemen are still in charge at the networks. Forgive me, but they're all white males, and you can't get away from that." In 2018, Connie Chung returned to the news desk. Sort of. She played herself in a groundbreaking episode of the ABC sitcom Fresh Off the Boat, a show that focuses on a Chinese-American family. In the episode, Chung criticizes the show's fictional local newscasters for not covering Lunar New Year. The episode was noted for half of the dialogue being in Mandarin, something that rarely happens in American media. In 2018, Connie Chung and her husband, Maury Povich, appeared on Megyn Kelly Today. Kelly asked how the two have managed to stay together after more than 30 years, and the couple bantered back and forth. During the interview, Chung joked to Kelly,
"I wish I were married to the guy who's on TV. He's so empathetic. He's so sweet."
Povich said that the real secret to their long-lasting relationship is that they try to let go of their arguments. She might joke around, but Chung is clearly devoted to her decades-long partner. In 2013, she surprised her husband by jumping out of a cake during the taping of the 2,500th episode of his show, Maury. If that's not love, then what is? Connie Chung was a trailblazer for women, and her success is proof of just how much women can do. In spite of all that she has accomplished, however, she still thinks that women can't have it all, at least not all at once. As she explained to NPR, "I would say to women who are trying to juggle it all, you can't really do it all 100%. You don't have to be perfect. You don't have to do everything." She stressed the importance of equal partnerships, reminding women that there's no such thing as, quote, women's work, and that they don't have to bear the burden of household chores. Chung also added that those in a committed partnership need to, quote, share the duties around the house. Being off the air hasn't kept Connie Chung from weighing in on politics. In 2016, she offered up her opinion on the then presidential Democratic nominee, Hillary Clinton. She said that Clinton was, quote, incredibly paranoid and cautious when it came to the media. Chung told MSNBC that she had previously covered Clinton when she was First Lady and had approached her at a political event. Upon interacting with Clinton, Chung told the First Lady that she was, quote, tracking her, meaning that she was going to report on whatever Clinton was going to do next. Chung then recalled Clinton's strong reaction.
She looked at me as if I said, I'm stalking you. So there's this.
Chung went on to say that she thought Hillary Clinton did not trust the media. She then added that the smartest politicians are the ones who know how to use the media to their advantage, implying that Donald Trump was one such person. Connie Chung expressed support for the Me Too movement in February 2018, commending NBC and CBS for firing Matt Lauer and Charlie Rose after allegations of misconduct were made against the two high-profile men. Chung said that she had experienced harassment throughout her career, but didn't open up about the extent of her experiences until later in the year. In October 2018, Chung penned an open letter to Christine Blasey Ford in the Washington Post after Ford accused Supreme Court nominee Brett Kavanaugh of sexually assaulting her decades earlier at a party. Ford's claim was met with skepticism, in part because of the length of time that had elapsed since the incident. Chung said that she had been assaulted by her family doctor during a gynecological exam. Like Ford, Chung remained silent for years, but wrote this in her open letter.
We remember the truth forever. Bravo, Christine, for telling the truth.
Connie Chung has continued to speak out against misogyny, and she has specifically called out the television industry and demanded change. In a 2019 interview with The Hollywood Reporter at the International Women's Media Foundation's 2019 annual Courage in Journalism Awards, she applauded the incredible advances that women have made in the news industry. She also condemned the, quote, all-male management and the, quote, old boys network that are still so dominant. Chung said that while Me Too has led to some major changes and a new awareness at news outlets like ABC, CBS, and Fox News, there's still a lot of work to be done. Chung also encouraged victims of harassment in the TV news industry to come forward, saying that women shouldn't fear that they will be fired if they report inappropriate behavior. Connie Chung may be one of the biggest names in the news industry, but she's quite down to earth. As she told Closer Weekly in 2019, she and her husband Maury Povich don't take ourselves seriously. This, said Chung, is a big contrast from their peers in television news, whom she called, quote, ridiculous. Chung said that people in the TV news business have egos so large that, quote, you can't fit their heads in Madison Square Garden. Chung added that even seemingly normal people can change once they see themselves on TV. Chung said that the fact that she and Povich aren't self-absorbed is one of the reasons that their relationship has lasted so long. Another thing that keeps the romance going? Povich's sense of humor. Chung has a funny streak herself, joking that she doesn't like her husband most of the time, but that she always loves him.
Game shows, a second chance at love, and a life-changing diagnosis. For millions of TV viewers, Katie Couric was once a trusted source for delivering the day's biggest news stories. So where'd she go? In 2014, Katie Couric's daytime talk show, Katie, ended after 2 years on the air, but Couric didn't waste any time in finding something else. That same year, she signed a deal with Yahoo to anchor the company's news on the internet. The host was especially excited to have some freedom in her new gig, telling Politico, "What I really am excited about in working with the team at Yahoo is that there are no rules right now. We are going to try things. We are going to see how they go. We are going to see what people are interested in. We can do everything from a town hall meeting to in-depth interviews to a breaking news story." However, the fact that there were no rules might have been worse than Couric originally anticipated. By 2017, she ended her stint with Yahoo, citing a lack of fulfillment and claiming that the brand didn't know how to market its products. She told the Recode Decode podcast, "I had all this great content, I was getting big interviews, and it was sort of like a tree falling in the forest. They didn't put it on the front page." Couric's first marriage to Jay Monahan ended in tragedy. Monahan died of colon cancer in 1998 at the age of 42. He and Couric were married for 9 years and they shared 2 children. In the wake of her family's loss, Couric threw herself into her career, telling people, "Working was my salvation. If I was doing a cooking segment, I couldn't be thinking about, Jay's latest scan. It helped me maintain my sanity."
Words, of course, will never describe how devastating this loss has been for me and my daughters and all of Jay's family as well.
Couric eventually found love again. In 2014, she got married to former financier John Molnar. Couric said on Today after the wedding,
"It just felt right and perfect, and so I just wasn't nervous at all."
And her marital bliss lasted well into the year. A few months after the wedding, Couric told people, "Life is great, it's fun, he's really funny and really fun to be with. I love being with him. The honeymoon isn't over yet, so it's nice."
The honeymoon seems to still be intact. On their 9th wedding anniversary in 2023, Molnar paid tribute to his wife on Instagram, writing, "9 years, what an adventure. I'm lucky to have you in my life. Where to next?" Throughout her career, Couric has had a number of acting opportunities thrown her way. She played a prison guard in 2002's Austin Powers and Goldmember, and appeared in 2 episodes of Will and Grace as herself.
Hey, kid, can you tell us what's going on here? Did you just call me kid? You're Katie Couric.
After voicing a character in the 2004 animated film Shark Tale, she went on an acting hiatus for a number of years. She started acting again in the 2010s, nabbing small parts in Zoolander 2 and Sully, among others. In 2011, she made a return to the TV realm and appeared in Season 2 of Glee, once again as herself.
Thoughts?
I hate you, Diane Sawyer.
Her acting work continued into the 2020s. Couric appeared as herself in a 2020 episode of The Boys, and in 2023, she played a reporter in 2 episodes of the podcast Supreme: The Battle for Roe. After leaving TV hosting behind, Couric went all in on producing. The host, along with her husband, founded her own production company called Kathie Couric Media. The company produces both scripted and unscripted programming. Among her projects have been Flint, Unbelievable, and An American Bombing, The Road to April 19th. Kathie Couric Media is still alive and well today, and the company also works with major companies to create branded content. Molnar said on the company's website, "KCM is proud to help brands tell stories that matter through a collaborative partnership with one of the most trusted voices in media." Couric couldn't let hosting go completely by the wayside. In 2017, she and Molnar joined forces to host an internet cooking show called Full Plate. The series followed the couple as they learned about cooking from renowned chef Joel Gamoran. In an interview with Bon Appetit, Couric had this to say about her culinary skills at the beginning of the series. "It wasn't that I couldn't boil water, but I was nervous to try cooking fish or dried beans or more complicated things." As the series progressed, however, Couric and Molnar were cooking up dishes like lamb chops, scallops, and cauliflower grits. In 2020, legendary Jeopardy host Alex Trebek tragically passed away at the age of 80. While the producers of the series searched for a permanent host, a slew of guest hosts did their best to fill Trebek's shoes. Among the guest hosts were Mayim Bialik, Ken Jennings, and Couric.
I watch the show a lot. I watch it regularly, but I started watching it religiously.
Couric spoke to Pointer about what it was like to host the iconic game show. She told the outlet, "I tried to make it my own, but also respect the institution because Jeopardy is not really a game show. It doesn't feel right to call it a game show. It is an American institution. It was a lot of fun, but it was a very tough job." Ultimately, Bialik and Jennings were chosen as permanent hosts, with Jennings becoming the sole host in late 2023. After spending decades on television, Couric still felt like the world didn't quite know who she was. To rectify that, she wrote a memoir called Going There, which was released in 2021 to critical acclaim. The memoir offered a behind-the-scenes look at events in Couric's career, such as her intimate meeting with Princess Diana. Another hot topic covered in the book was Matt Lauer. Couric wrote in Going There, "I know Matt thinks I betrayed him, and that makes me sad, but he betrayed me too, by how he behaved behind closed doors at the show we both cared about so much." The host also owned up to her own past journalistic indiscretions, such as omitting one of Ruth Bader Ginsburg's interview responses to a question about police brutality. Couric wrote, "I lost a lot of sleep over that one and still wrestle with the decision I made." In 2022, Couric opened up about some devastating health news. She had breast cancer. The veteran anchor recounted the moment she learned of her diagnosis in a Kathie Couric Media blog post, writing, "I felt sick and the room started to spin. I was in the middle of an open office, so I walked to a corner and spoke quietly, my mouth unable to keep up with the questions swirling in my head."
I was pretty stunned.
The veteran anchor was afraid of what this all could mean not only for her, but for her daughters. She wrote in the post, "They'd already lost one parent. The idea of losing another was unfathomable." Couric's treatment consisted of a surgery to remove a tumor in her breast and radiation to clear out any remaining cancer cells in her body. The surgery and radiation were both successful. Couric is in remission. The former television host has since used her experience to advocate for the importance of early cancer detection, as that's what kept her sickness from manifesting into something more dangerous. She told People in 2023, I was very fortunate. My cancer was caught very, very early when it's most treatable. And if I can just be an advertisement for people to get screened, to get their mammography done, to talk to their doctors, and if they have dense breasts, to get additional screening. Couric didn't just use her own experience with cancer to advocate for early detection. She also began campaigning for everyone to have access to quality healthcare. In her essay about her diagnosis, Couric pointed out how crucial it is that people have access to regular checkups as well as diagnostic scans, writing, "To reap the benefits of modern medicine, we need to stay on top of our screenings, advocate for ourselves, and make sure everyone has access to the diagnostic tools that could very well save their life." She then began casting a wider net. Couric now speaks regularly to podcast hosts and journalists about the importance of healthcare equity. She told Forbes, "When I learned that Black women or women of color have a 40% higher mortality rate, I felt both grateful that I had access to care, but also enraged that so many women don't."
I think women have to advocate for their own health.
She also opened up to USA Today about her passions for advocacy, saying, "People must roll their eyes and say, 'Oh, there she goes again, from colons to boobs.' But I feel like I have an obligation, that I have an audience. They've watched me for a long time." Couric has an estimated net worth of $110 million, so it's safe to say she never has to work again. However, the superstar journalist is still keeping busy in her post-TV host era. Back in 2016, Couric launched her podcast, Next Question with Katie Couric, and she's been releasing episodes on a regular basis ever since. Furthermore, Katie Couric Media has expanded significantly. Couric told CNBC in 2024, "We now are sort of a thoroughly modern media company with newsletters. We have 4 now. We have obviously a podcast, and I'm giving birth, not literally, to other podcasts."
And then, of course, I use social media to do a lot of news-making interviews.
However, Couric's life isn't all business. She's celebrated some personal milestones recently, too. In 2024, Couric became a grandmother for the first time when her daughter Ellie Monahan gave birth. Couric told USA Today, "I'm looking forward to spending time with my grandchild and just doing the fun stuff, because grandparents get to do the fun stuff."